Now, I mentioned at the beginning of this video I was going to be using something known as the Mythic GM Emulator, specifically the second edition, to be creating the one-shot for this. But what the fuck is it? Well, regular goated-based listeners of the channel will know that I've mentioned this book quite strongly and fondly throughout the course of the channel's existence, and I actually have a review of this coming up later this year, which isn't actually that far ahead when this video comes out, so keep your nostrils peeled for that. But what Mythic is, if we're going to go by the book's subtitle, it allows you to create dynamic role-playing adventures without a games master, by Tanner Pigeon. And I love solo play. I love being able to play any sort of game system by myself, whether it is Vampire the Masquerade, Wraith the Oblivion, Call of Cthulhu, or in this case, All Flesh Must Be Eaten, by myself. But there are so many tools and tables in here that it's really possible just to take these abstract ideas, thoughts, descriptors, motivations, etc. and so forth, to help plot a campaign or one shot. Because I see a lot of criticism with things like this, like, oh, it's a solo tools, I won't need that, I play games properly, or I'm not going to do solo play because that's kind of sad. Well, let's just think about not too long ago where it was seen as generally really sad to be playing TTRPGs at all, just how sad it is, like playing make-believe of full-ass grown-up adults with dice playing fairy tale stuff. Like, perceptions and things change, and I think we should really be applying our brain cells a lot more and just think how different things were not too long ago, and in many instances how different they still remain to be. But you know, little digs aside, Mythic is a really useful tool that allows you to develop campaigns and one-shots because it's a bunch of random tables essentially, and you just roll on these things and come up with like thoughts and descriptors to come up with adventures that traditionally in a solo environment helps you to propel the plot forward because there isn't a games master to work with, because you're either doing it by yourself or like some duo stuff with a mate or so, and using this as like the main games master decision making thing. But it's just good, and we're going to be using this right now to be developing our one shot for our game of All Flesh Must Be Eaten, and we're probably going to have some ideas along the way that allows us to give us some thoughts about where these zombies fucking came from. Like, why is it that these zombies are resistant to fire? Why these zombies are like spitting up freaking acid blood or whatever at people. So on a fresh piece of paper with a bit of pen that's disappeared somewhere, oh, it's there. I checked behind my ears because you probably noticed I put pens and pencils behind my ears a lot. I'm going to be using the same set of D100s, a D100 and a D10, and we're just going to move you out of the way, my little friend. Put that over there. I'm going to open them up on the action tables, which is the ones that I tend to use the most often, just because that's how I do things, because first edition didn't have all these other fancy panty descriptor things, so I just used that. And we're just going to keep rolling on this until we have a decent plot to be working with. I can just fine-tune things when I'm coming up with shit on the fly, because I don't do a lot of note-taking. This is probably going to be the most note-taking that I'm going to be doing for like the entire process of this game. I would show you like a digital version on the screen, but quite frankly I can't be asked, and it's literally just a bunch of tables there. Lovely stuff. Let us start with the actual synopsis that I have so far with this, where the players and the pre-gens that I will make shortly after putting together this scenario here, so I actually know the sort of people I'm going to be creating, because it makes sense to come up with the scenario before you come up with the pre-gens, you know, so the players fit the world rather than the other way around. Is that different characters and different backgrounds are going to be going to the cinema, like going into the local town centre and be watching a film, and what films they'll be watching, I'll give them a list, and depending on the sort of film they're going to watch, I'll do something a little bit different. Like I had that idea of like the couple like sucking each other off for being a bit adult humour sort of thing, but they find out that it's actually zombies, and with the things that we rolled earlier on, it turns out that these zombies are feeding on blood, so that actually makes a lot of sense. It's kind of funny how that turned out. And then from there onwards, the plot opens up, and we see that the army's involved because they keep mentioning this is a very army-centric area, and we find out that the zombies are resistant to flames. So I'm actually going to start rolling on these tables now to give us some direction about what to do next, because the players are obviously going to try and get away from these sort of things and like hide and take shelter, whatever it is, but I need something to direct them a bit more, to give them some form of fucking structure, because the cinema isn't that big and it's not going to take them the whole 3 hours to get out. It'll probably take like half an hour, maybe an hour, just to set all of this up. An hour being really generous with that. But anyway, let's just roll on this thing and see what things we can generate on the thing. So, the way that Mythic works is you've got 2 sets of tables of the action tables, 2 sets of D100 tables. It's all D100 stuff. You've got Action 1 and Action 2 in this case, and the first roll I rolled was 3. Okay, interesting. Which gives us the prompt of activate. I'm going to write this down because I will forget. And then we go to the second table, which gives us 93, which gives us the result of value. Activate value. Which sort of makes me lean that these sorts of people like this is some sort of experiment that's activating the dead in this sense. I'm not too sure if I'm totally happy with that idea. If I swapped 93 and made it 39, what would that give me? Hindrance. Well, that's the complete fucking opposite. Activate value or activate hindrance. Okay, what if I swapped activate around and made that 30? Extravagance. That doesn't help at all. Okay, let's make the idea them being an experiment work. Activate value. Or maybe it's not so much... Okay, activate hindrance. That could be like a special ops force thing. So the army turns up as planned and they're dealing with zombies, like taking them out. It's not really working. Like at best it's slowing them down. Like intestines and whatnot just squirming about. Maybe we could extend that a bit more to bones to make like fucking weird fucking bear trap sort of thing. I like that. I think that will play into rather nicely. So like the thing from the thing, you know, where they're dealing with that guy and the chest opens up and chomps somebody's hand off. Something like that. Ooh, that's nasty. Lovely stuff. So maybe they're dealing with the army, they're getting away, they're thinking that they're safe, but then the players and people are captured by this special ops force because now everyone is infected, that there's something in the air, and because it's like late autumn, early winter period, well, it's like late autumn, like another month to go before it's winter, like it's flu season basically, and there is just like something in the air that's infecting people. Now everyone is now going to have to be treated. So okay, so players run around a bit like special ops, so obviously this is like a secret government thing now, so it becomes a bit more serious. So I think them escaping and running about like takes up like the first or like a couple of scenes, or you know, like the first act as it were, which is like 2 or 3 scenes all together, like the players going to the cinema, interacting with NPCs, or maybe if like a couple or whatever, like actual couple, like a boyfriend, girlfriend sort of scenario, and they decide to make their characters connect, and obviously just hand wave things away. Like them all interacting with each other, you know, going to the loo, getting snacks, whatever, role playing that, just making it really nice and friendly, stuff that I usually wouldn't focus too much attention on. They go down the film, they have their different interactions, they find out there's zombies about, they're flame resistant, they're spitting all sort of weird shit at people, they escape, they all band together sort of thing, they're all like chatting away. Just when they think they're safe, van comes in, forces people out the car, and that moves on to the second act, I feel, which is where we find out a bit more about this sort of secret facility, and maybe it's at the actual army location and we're in the town. I'm actually going to employ one of Mythic's staple features to decide that, which is like the fate chart, which is a D100 chart, which I will put on screen now because I think this is like generally well-known knowledge within the TTRPG space. It looks a bit confusing, but if I say it's like an under D100 system, that should make things a lot more easier to understand. So if we treated something that was like 50-50, right, where you've got that big old 50 in the middle, the 10 on the one side and the 91 on the other side, the chaos factor would say it's 5, which basically dictates how much you are or are not in control of a scenario if you're treating this as a solo thing. If it's between 10 and 50, that's a yes. If it's below 10, it's an exceptional yes, so it's like yes with added goodies on top of that. If it's between 50 and 91, then the answer is no, and if it's other than 91, it's an exceptional no, which is like no, but, or no with some extra goodies on there. So for the purpose of this, I'm just going to treat this as like the 50-50 chaos factor 5, because this is just me planning shit. Would this be the actual army bit? Yeah, I think so. This is the fucking UK. They are fucking incompetent, because I think them being driven off to fucking, I don't know, like London or whatever, or some other secret site is a bit nonsensical. So yeah, let's just roll that 50-50, see what our result is. So that's 30 exactly, which is between 50 and 10, so that is a yes. So special off, secret site on campus, and I will know what that means when I come round to planning things proper. So that's our first act, most of which I've already planned already, but the fact that we now have that this is like a special ops that's like moving the infected away, so kind of like the crazies sort of thing. Both the crazies are great and they have different perspectives on things, but that's kind of the image that I'm going with here a little bit. And like part of that opening act is them like being scanned like some sort of sensor to see whether they're infected or not, and I could do like a generic roll, an endurance test to see how well they're infected, or maybe when they're all driving away, have them all roll their endurance, and that could determine who or is not infected. I like that. That's a pretty neat idea. So Act 2, I'm going to make note of this. Act 1, Act 2, and this is where most of the planning is probably going to be happening now, because I keep saying I've planned most of Act 1 just as I was rambling shit earlier on in this video out and about. So let's just roll the action tables once more. We're not going to be using the descriptor tables just yet, because obviously this is going to be a very clean, sterile environment. 1. Abandon. What a fucking terrific start to that's going to be. So it's going to be really chaotic straight away, I think. 25 on the second table is enemy. Abandon enemy. Well, I think that just means that things are going to go to shit pretty fucking quickly. But why? So I'll just put a note there. I'll put an invasion that people are going to be like fleeing from everything that's coming on. Like, that's probably how the players are going to know that they can climb, unless one of the players does something. Because we found in the description earlier on in the book that they can climb chainmail fences. So maybe there's like a not so guarded area and they actually begin to climb over. See, it's all connecting together. But that's obviously going to be like the main bit of the act, as it were, or the latter part of it. But I actually want to decide a bit more about what's going to happen beforehand. 90 on the first table gives us the result of take. 97 weapon. Take weapon. You see, and I wanted this to be the beginning bit, but I actually think this is going to be the case of this special ops, like anyone who can fight sort of thing, or maybe kill everyone. Like, nobody should be allowed to escape. I think that might be the angle that we're going to go with this. Actually, I can do a mythic roll to do this, to see what's more likely, like whether that means just kill everyone, or like if you can fight sort of thing. Because I'm a deeply cynical bastard that's just lived through the last 15 years of a conservative government, where the penultimate Prime Minister, sorry, the one before the penultimate one, Boris Johnson, effectively wanted to fucking kill everybody with, like, the COVID scenario. I'm actually going to say that he's nearly certain that this military group that's, like, keeping the infected away from the main infected will probably just start to kill them outright, which will encourage people to pick up weapons and defend themselves. So, using nearly certain, we're now looking from 85 to 17, which will guarantee whether it's a yes or not. So those odds become a lot more favourable to the result of yes. Now, if that chaos factor was 6, it wouldn't be from 85 to 17. It would actually be from 90 to 18. So the higher the chaos factor, the more likely our yes result's going to be. And with first edition, it's the other way round. So that is 72. So yeah, I would actually like to do a roll now to describe the sort of environment that our players are going to be used to, like those who are infected and those who aren't are going to be segregated, obviously. So we're going to use the descriptors to try and come up with sort of environmental stuff to see how well they're going to be treated, the general environment, etc. and so forth. So, descriptor table 1, and this is the general one because they're more specific ones. 39 gives us the result of frighteningly, that's ominous, and 96. No, sorry, 66. 66. Mysterious. Well, that to me feels that a load of them are just going to be shoved in a room. because it's like sterile, clean, white LED lights, put them in a room sort of thing. Just seeing how they react, I think. The infected are going to get shoved in a room, and then just seeing if people... And I'm probably going to have to put like an NPC who's had a bit of blood drain from their neck or whatever, and this has been purposeful just to see how they're going to react and like experiment sort of thing. Yeah, that's pretty fucking dark. I'm going to stick with that. So that's the infected angle of it. How about those that aren't infected? I'm doing that because they're obviously all infected. That's what we're going with here. But it doesn't answer the question of, like, why are they fucking flame resistant? So I don't think we might need an answer to that, honestly. But 100. Fucking hell. Yieldingly. I did not know that was a word. Every day's a school day. And 96 again. Fucking hell. So it was 66 before, it's now 96 now. Vibrant. Yieldingly implies a submissive. Vibrant means colourful. Okay, so this is like a real fucking dark contrast. Like, one half of the group is going to go like, don't worry, you're safe, we're going to keep you safe, you've got lots of food, hot drinks, etc. and so forth. Very passive, submissive sort of thing. Obviously, you feel that something a bit more sinister is going to be happening. Like, oh, what's happening to my mum? Don't worry, we're going to take care of them. This has gotten out of hand, like some sort of like weird experiment, like nuclear, not, you know, the sort of thing like with the whole thing with the crazies, like experimental weapon like crashes into the site and like it becomes a decontamination zone sort of thing. I am just fucking copying the fucking the crazies, aren't I? But I think it's a bit more organised because neither side's all organised. It's like, you know, I'm going to look after you, etc. and so forth, and then we cut to the other bit where actually they're being put in an experiment with some potential zombies. And I think it's from that side that we see the invasion happening, and then there's just these knock-on effects there. And then when everything hits the shit, not too long afterwards, with the zombies climbing over the fences, which, as I said already, I think is going to be like the main way that the players are going to work out that fucking shit that these lot can climb. And of course body parts as well, they can detach their limbs and throw them over whatever. Or maybe this is another careless element of it, that they're shooting through the chain metal fence. Oh, they're dead, and then they realise that their arms are climbing up as well, choking on people, etc. and so forth. That's good, I think. All with just rolling a couple of word prompts on these tables. And I'm just going to roll on an Act 3, which will obviously be then like the aftermath of them escaping, I think. So let's just see what Act 3 gives us when we go back to the action tables. 25, which gives us the answer of create. 85, create success. I mean, that sounds very fucking hopeful. But in this essence, it could be the fact that they're completely overswarmed. That the creating success actually means that the zombie threat is actually too much. There's actually a lot more of them now, because without giving too many details away, there's actually the nearby fucking town that they could all be swarming into. The other bits of woodland or whatever they could be coming through as well. So what started out as like a very small contained area now is actually becoming a fucking national problem. And for it all to happen so suddenly, sort of makes it very alarming. Well, as if it wasn't alarming already, but you know what I'm trying to say, that it suddenly becomes a much bigger issue. And I know what that means when it comes to plotting things out proper. So if we just pad that out a bit more, we're going to get the answer of 84 on the action table. Number 1. 84 is stop. And 10. Exactly. Burden. You see, the thing that comes to my mind with that, and it's always a good idea with these tables to go like the knee-jerk response, is that, with how I would describe it, focus on the character's emotions, just stop resisting. Like, are you going to keep fighting for it, or are you just going to run away sort of thing? Like, what's the next step? Like, maybe leaning into those more harrowing descriptions, which I'm actually going to write down. Yeah, I think Act 3 is more like turning out to be the more fucking epilogue, and like Act 2 is going to be like the main hurrah, as it were, the make or break point, which also makes a lot of sense. They think they've escaped. They think, oh, the zombies are all going to be handled, and then they like step outside, like take a car or whatever, and they actually see the problem's a lot fucking huger. Huger, I don't think is a word, but it is now. Let's roll one more time and see if we can come up with something more concrete to work with in terms of like actual roleplay. 96 again. Fucking hell. Truce. And free again. Truce. You can't make this shit up. Truce and agreement. I'm going to roll that one again because that's like exactly the same fucking word. 92. Trial. The truce thing makes me think about like another group of survivors of the trial run, and then the trial bit could be like them driving into the sunset sort of thing with whatever weapons and shit they've picked up, dealing with whatever happens next. I think that's how it ends. Yeah. I have to say, I'm mildly disappointing that with the Act 3, it's just sort of leaning towards like the prelude sort of thing. I had hoped for a bit more, but that's totally okay. It doesn't have to be like so role-playing, dice rolling, friendship. That's just the ideas I've gone with, and I'm happy with the result. I was just a bit disappointed and surprised that it went the way that it did, but this worked. I can make this work absolutely fine. But why the fuck are the zombies fire resistant? I'm going to do some action tables, and if I can't come up with anything, then I will just leave it as a fucking mystery and not focus about it anymore. Unless something comes to me later on, and then I'll mention it at an appropriate point in the video. 65 gives us the result of open. And 97, open weapon. Open weapon. So they are a weapon if there's something in the air. Maybe it's something in the water, turning the people dead. I think I'm going to go with the air thing, because I'm sort of lent into like it's flu season sort of thing. And it was meant to turn certain people into like toughened soldiers, you know, that old fucking gag. Not sure if I'm sold on it though, that's the thing. Because it's very fucking difficult to control if you just leave it like that. Or maybe not so much as a war thing, maybe it was meant as a defensive thing. Government is expecting retaliation from Russia or America with stuff that's going on in the world at the moment, and it's just a very weird tactic to make people resistant to being bombed. Because they can't do it any other way, I guess. Because the government loves wasting money on fucking botched ideas. That's a fucking wild stretch. But I'm going to go with it. I'm going to make that note on my other bit of paper. Oh, of course, they've got infravision as well. So they can detect heat. I'd completely forgotten about that. And they also have an invulnerability to something, which I have yet to decide upon as well. Okay, well, we're talking about... There might be a good place actually to talk about this sort of thing. Like, what is it that the... Obviously, it's fucked about with the chemistry in the brain, and they feed on blood. Probably the infrared thing was like an attempt at, like, dust clouds or some nuclear holocaust, creating some wacky environments or unpleasant living conditions, so it keeps the British population strong, you know, fighting against the opposition, sort of that old wartimey shit with a weird twist. Again, I'm really fucking stretching this out. Vulnerability. What could that be? Blood thing makes sense, they just sort of become like fucking parasites. Or a mosquito sort of thing. Like, resistant to heat. Cockroaches. Essentially turning the people into shambling cockroaches. Do cockroaches have like a specific weakness? Because I know we talk about the idea of them being... like, they would survive a holocaust, which they fucking wouldn't. If anything, wasps would survive a lot better. Do cockroaches have a specific... Do cockroaches have wieners? That's... Thank you, Google.
A few moments later.
Cockroaches hate pungent odours from sources like citrus fruits, peppermint, eucalyptus, lavender, cinnamon, bay leaves, garlic, and citronella. That needs thought. But, yeah, you kind of get the general idea just how straightforward it is to come up with a whole one-shot. And if I was to make this into a campaign, this could be one session, and how it ends could be the beginning of the next session of survival. And I could carry on planning this with Mythic. It's that straightforward. It's a combination of just 2 dice, this book, and your imagination. None of that fucking generative AI crap. It's not necessary. Using this engages with your creativity and your imagination. Chances are that if you're watching this, you had different ideas of where this could go, and that's fine. That's the wonderful thing about the human imagination, that we can come up with different things. And if we were doing this together, like literally doing this together, we could like make compromises and bounce ideas off of each other. Like, really fucking useful tool. It doesn't have to be all solo stuff. You can fucking purchase this book and have fun in so many different ways, and I strongly recommend that you do the same, because you can come up with some really cool fucking things here, as I've just fucking demonstrated. So yeah, I think with that sort of idea, I should probably